Hello.
How are you?
Technical difficulties.
No, it's okay. I'm fine.
Oh,
So how are you doing?
very well. Very good. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. So I think quite a few people already joined, and we have a special guest today, and he's already here, as I can see. So we will introduce him in like about a minute, I think, and we will start talking about Beam for a few minutes. But then we will ask Alex Slobodnik to join us from Nftychat, and we will talk about this amazing project and about Web3 and about ENS. But before we get started with that, a couple of announcements about Beam. So first of all, as you know, last week we have published a draft of our roadmap, and if you haven't already reviewed it on our forum, you're welcome to do so. And also, we need a name for our kind of Beam naming service. I'm going to talk a lot about ENS today, but on Beam, we have our own kind of Beam version of this great thing with privacy, of course. And we're still looking for a cool name how to call it. But now we want to find yet another name because in addition to launching our mainnet this week, the version 7.0, which is like long awaited, the hard fork version, we will also launch another testnet. And it's going to be a testnet dedicated to trying out new decentralized applications that we build. So we will create kind of, in addition to the regular testnet, which usually is updated before the launch of the mainnet, we will have another kind of more experimental and like less formal testnet, which will be used as a playground and as a testing ground for new applications. So we need a cool name for that too, something like EdgeNet or whatever sounds amazing. So we will post some options in Twitter and Telegram tomorrow and vote on that and find ourselves a great new name for this new network that we're having.
This is cool. And this like testing environment or test network will be specific or more specific for applications and this kind of thing, right?
Yes. So we are going to have a fake proof of work there. So it's not going to be real miners. We will have some kind of simulated environment so that everything works more or less consistently. I think it will reduce the frustration. Like when you're actually doing something on the mainnet, it's okay to wait for a few minutes for a block to be mined. But when you're playing with something, it can be very annoying to just wait needlessly. So we will create this kind of simulated network that will work a little bit faster and more predictably in terms of the block production. And it will be hosting all of the latest versions of all of the applications that we're working on. So even before their launch, you will be able to play with them and provide feedback much quicker. So I think it will be amazing for our community and will increase the quality of those applications eventually, obviously, and everything else. So yeah, let's welcome our guest. Alex, you can click on request to speak, I think, at the bottom of your screen. And then we will let you in. If you can hear us, which I hope you can.
Slobo.f, right?
That's right.
Here we go. Welcome, Alex.
Hey, great to be here. I go by Slobo, obviously fully doxed, but kind of own that Slobo.eth identity. Thanks for having me. But yeah, I'll kick it back to you guys before introducing myself.
Sure. So we are going to talk about your project today, like most of the time, and obviously everyone is welcome to ask questions about it. But first, tell us about yourself and tell us about your amazing project.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Slobo.eth. I've had crypto exposures for a while, but then last summer I really got into ENS. ENS was kind of my gateway drug, And the moment I owned Slobo.eth, I was really confused why I couldn't find a website to chat from Slobo.eth. So with that, I created Nftychat XYZ, where you log in with your Ethereum wallet and you chat from either your wallet address, or if you have an ENS name, you chat from that. And the beauty of that project is that everybody who's experienced Discord, they've experienced bots and scams. And the reasons bots and scams happen is because in Web 2, your identity is free. ENS is not free. And therefore, if you create a service that is based on that, you can eliminate so much of the garbage and so much of the pain that new entrants experience in Discord, that it's just such a much better experience, because like you own your identity, the platform, like, you know, whatever your name is on Discord, you don't own that. Discord owns that. On Nftychat, you can't create a username. You have to use um, ENS is the only way you can have some kind of nice identifiable name. And that way, like, no one can impersonate you unless they grab your keys. And I think that makes a true kind of native Web3 product that has a bunch of other features. Like when you log in, you don't need to authenticate that like you own collection X, Y, and Z, because you're logging in with your wallet. I see that it's public, and I'm able to create a dynamic profile that shows everything that you've kind of done on the blockchain, which helps people communicate better. Because now when I'm talking to someone, I can tell, are they an NFT degen? Are they a DeFi degen? Or are they just really new and they don't have a lot of transactions? So it's sort of like surfacing that data that's already kind of public anyways is one of the like core strengths of Nftychat. I know I said a lot there. I always recommend people just give it a try. It's a live beta. Anyone can go in there. You can log in with a burner wallet. You can log in with a real wallet. It's not going to cost you anything.
Yeah, so first of all, I have this confession to make. I bought ENS name just to log into your chat. I didn't have one before. And it's very nice. Like it's actually like better, more kind of simplistic and cleaner version of Discord, as you said. That you can log in and you can chat even without buying ENS, right? But you will be identified by this kind of public key that was generated, right?
Exactly. You could always chat from your wallet, right? But then it'll be OX564321, right? Which is like not very memorable.
So you can also add other NFTs and set them as your profile image, right?
Absolutely. And it shows all your POAPs if that's what your most recent 5 POAPs. So you can kind of get a feel of who you are. Not sure if your audience is familiar with POAP.
No, we actually are. Like I am personally. But you can explain in a few words if you'd like what this is.
Yeah, so there's this really fun protocol called POAP, which stands for Proof of Attendance, Proof of Attendance Protocol, and it's generated off of the XDAI chain, where you basically get to mint something that shows you were somewhere physically. Like some people drop POAPs for like calls like this, so then like a year from now I can be like, what was I doing this day? It's like, oh, I was on this call, and now it's permanently on chain. Even though it's like a very cheap chain. So it kind of keeps like your memories stored. And I really like that because I'm most excited personally by all the non-financial use cases of blockchain, because those are the things that, like, obviously everybody likes to make money. But the thing that's exciting is when you can do something that you couldn't do before, which is like remember things or like show off all your like NFTs, which are more cultural. Obviously everybody kind of dejets into that. But I think that's what's exciting, to have more non-financially like first apps on top of Ethereum, because I think it like binds society better and like gives us like these capabilities that the world didn't have before.
Yeah, I totally. Like before we go into like kind of more in-depth questions, which I have quite a few. I confess I have quite a few questions. But like about ENS, we are now working in Beam. So Beam is a privacy network, right? So it's a privacy blockchain layer 1. And we have smart contracts, so we can actually build applications that use this layer 1 privacy to create all kinds of interesting things, both in the DeFi kind of financial applications and non-financial applications. Just for example, we have launched NFT gallery a few months ago on Halloween, of this contest that we made, for fun, to just see some people upload images and then have a contest. But it was so popular that it kind of continued and carried on, and soon we will be launching the second version of NFT. Now in Beam, the trick is that whenever you buy an NFT, there is a new key generated for every purchase. So you cannot know by looking on one of the NFTs that I own, you cannot see all the others. Like, you cannot link those accounts. And we have decided to try to create a similar approach for the naming service on Beam. Unlike ENS, where I can just take, let's say, your .eth domain, go to the Explorer, to the Etherscan, and just see, obviously, it's probably going to be linked to some burner wallet or a wallet that you don't usually use for major transactions. But theoretically, from there, I can scan these addresses, and I can kind of try to deduce what else you're holding. So in Beam, it's going to be working in a similar fashion, that each transaction going to your Beam version of ENS, BNS, I don't want to call it that because we want to invent a new name, it will be unlinkable. So it will be completely separate. Like, if you send some funds to my Beam domain, you will know that you send those funds, but no one else will be able to link them to any other things that I have received to the same name. So that's kind of the idea.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the way, and the other little bit of context, I work in the ENS DAO as well. Just because I'm so passionate that they gave me the opportunity to be elected, and I kind of help facilitate the movement of funds and finding interesting projects that are building on top of ENS, which kind of makes sense because I kind of really went heavy in with Nftychat on top of ENS. But I think when I hear to be honest, I didn't really know anything about Beam. You and your colleagues reached out, and I'm always down to talk. Right? I think there's room for conversation from all sorts of people. But as you're describing, came to mind is that some people want to have that link to the identity, whereas I have an amount of assets. If you look at Slobodnik, there's probably $15,000, or depending on the day, $10,000, something that's, it's not nothing, but it's not $1 billion, right? But I could also see that, I would love to understand how you see that privacy being used, right? Because sometimes I want to aggregate things. When do you see when people wouldn't want to aggregate something to a single name? Or
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would love to hear that.
Absolutely. So the way it works in the privacy world is that you are in control of which information you expose and to whom. And in this specific case of naming and let's say NFTs, because it's kind of one of the simplest and most interesting examples, let's say you want to show off a part of your collection to someone. So you can create a proof, kind of very simple, not simple, but cryptographic kind of proof that all of these specific NFTs that you are currently showing are actually yours. So you can show off and you can prove that they belong to you. You can even do that on a permanent basis. You can expose any information, but you still keep this option of not exposing certain pieces that you own. And I mean, not just having them at the same address, but not even having them at any address that is linkable to your .eth address. So you don't lose this option. You don't lose the ability to kind of show what you have. You just are more in control of what you're showing and to whom.
Got it. So it's more like privacy by default, and then you can merge it later at the application layer. Because one of the things I think about, right? Because when you're building, and I'm sure you can appreciate it, you have to make trade-offs, and some of those trade-offs are just resource centric, right? You have to build what you can with the resources that you have. And I definitely see how I'm going to use a popular collection that I'm aware of. I think some people would love to participate in a Bored Ape community without revealing who they are, but still attesting to the fact that they actually own it, right? And that's something that we thought about, where using knowledge proof to confirm that you are part of a collective, but yet not knowing the specific, not even having my own app basically know that you're part of it without knowing which one, so kind of allowing some anonymity, because you're one out of 10,000 of these things, so you don't know which, you're going to be one of 10,000 people, and you just know that you belong there.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. So the interesting thing about this exact example, that it only works well if kind of, I would say all people use it, because if, 9,099 apes are public and you are the only one private, you're not really private, right?
Yeah, I think the way I was thinking about it is more like, and maybe I'm misunderstanding it, so feel free to correct me. The way I look at it is that I'm just proving that you're a member of a group, but as long as like I never know which specific NFT that was, but I know what group it is, I think your privacy, like your bit of like the number of bits of like anonymity remains to be that one of 10,000. Like even if nobody else is using it, right? Like me saying you're part of this collective. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So it's set what you are describing, and it's basically just exactly that, the number of people or entities in which you're hiding, right? If you imagine a situation where all 10 ape holders are in the same room, and you can kind of enumerate each and every one of them, but one, so that's kind of the missing piece, right? And this is exactly why when we have designed Beam, we have chosen, let's say, an approach of by default with opt-in auditability or opt-in ability to reveal the information, instead of saying, listen, most of our transactions are transparent, but if you want to hide, you can use closed transactions, which is kind of the approach of several other implementations and several other blockchains, because it reduces the anonymity set overall. And so it kind of affects your privacy in a way.
Yeah, and that's interesting. And what do you like? How do you? 'Cause I think everybody would agree we're all pretty early in crypto, right? Even if there's like 300 million people who have some exposure, the number of people who are like have a non-custodial wallet is, I don't know, like 30 million, 50 million, depending on how you want to count it. And there's 7 billion people in the world. How do you see desires for privacy evolving as less technical people enter the space? Do you see that demand increasing or decreasing?
So it's a great question, and it evolves. Like this entire space, it evolves, as you know, and very quickly. And when we have started, Beam started in 2018, and we launched in January 2019. When we have started, it was all about value. Okay, there was no DeFi, there was no NFTs. There was kind of very basic smart contracts, maybe CryptoKitties and some others. And value, transfer of value, like creating new coins, creating new tokens. In 2017, all of that space exploded, like everybody was making a token. It was all about kind of storing, transferring value, which has some kind of story behind it. However, within these 4 years of our existence, things have changed like dramatically. Like, for example, DeFi created a whole new market for not just moving value from like one wallet to another, but rather this abundance of various protocols that focus on trading and different types of decentralized exchanges and lending and stablecoins. And what it created kind of a new demand for privacy. Let's say when you only held your tokens, like back in the day, 2018, there was like Monero, Zcash, Beam, and it was like about, you don't know what I'm holding, right? So that was the whole story. But when the DeFi came into play, it was more about, wait a minute, not only don't I want to know what I'm holding, I don't want you to be able to monitor my trades. I don't want you to be able to front run me. And this is where like the miner extractable value and all of these kind of new terms came to mind.
Yeah, that makes sense, because like there's so much, I've seen people like that privacy where there's one form of privacy where it's like, well, I don't want people to know. And there's another form of privacy where if I'm leaking information, you literally can take advantage of me financially because you kind of know too much about me. So I definitely see the value proposition of, because obviously like I have this public wallet, but it's not going to be a surprise to anyone on the call. I also have other wallets that are not public, and if I've done it right, aren't linked to this in any kind of way, because sometimes you need a lot of privacy, and it's just, I think the question becomes is, should privacy be by default or not? And I guess that's how people are going to move through it. But I can definitely see it. If I was building a DeFi bot, I definitely would value privacy a lot more than I do now.
Yeah, so using Ethereum, for example, you can achieve this kind of unlinkability by being very, very careful who you are. And you have to keep being careful for like all eternity, because if you somehow like mix something and you receive like funds from one wallet to another wallet or somehow redirect them, then this linkability is established. And since the information on the blockchain is forever, this linkability is established forever. And it goes back to the beginning of days, right? So once I establish this linkability, I can now trace it back and see like all the things that you have done from this new perspective. And this is why in Beam we're trying to do it the opposite way. We're saying, listen, you are private by default. Whenever you want to expose a certain piece of information, yeah, you can do that. But other than that, like we keep your privacy at the maximum without you thinking about it.
Yeah, it's sort of like the comparison, and that might be a little bit out of date. I haven't looked into this, so again, feel free to correct me. I own Zcash, like a small amount of Zcash, just because what I liked about Zcash over Monero is because I think all the transactions were private by default, because like I don't want to. Whereas Monero, I think you had a choice, or I don't know where it is currently.
It's the opposite. Yeah, Monero is private by default, and in Zcash you
Yeah.
have a
Okay.
choice.
Yeah. So I like the privacy. You know, like I don't. It for people who aren't really into it, it's really easy to make a mistake.
I agree. Because you are probably one of the 30 million people who have non-custodial wallets, and you know how to use them properly. That's kind of the point.
Absolutely. So what other topics do you guys want to discuss? Because like I can definitely see the value proposition for like DeFi, and I read your website. It's definitely more DeFi focused, and I think you can tell that I'm so much more consumer focused because I want people to have a deeper connection with one another based on the things that based on the things that they've done, right? Because talk is cheap, but what you do is is far more like representative of who you are than what you say, right? Because you've actually put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, absolutely. I have quite a few questions, but I think I will let other people ask things before me, Gus or somebody from our listeners, if you have them. But if not, I will continue.
I don't have a question at this point. I'm sure I will, but no, I'm enjoying it.
Okay. So let's talk about the NS. Like, just like off kind of, top of your head, can you name like some other examples? You obviously had like other ideas that you think can be done with ENS. Can you just like share your thoughts about the evolution of that system going forward?
Yeah, I mean, like they do things that are hard, and like and naming is one of them. And so maybe I'm going to reframe your question a little bit, which maybe is not answering. Is that what I'm excited about ENS is the fact that I do believe that system can scale to like billions of names through the use of subdomains. And and I think that's coming, I don't know, like let's call it 3 months for the sake of argument, where you're going to be able to create subdomains effectively for free. And I think that opens up interesting utilities, not only from a monetization perspective, because I think it's going to be possible to like rent, like I could rent out, beam.slobo.eth, like I don't know why I would do that, but having that capability, I think will be like an explosion of innovation because you have like another primitive to do. But I think your question was what? Sorry, go ahead. Yep.
No, let me kind of give an example of maybe what I meant. You probably heard about the soulbound tokens that was very widely discussed this week.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, like honestly, what I think what should be happening, and I haven't heard anyone talk about this, but it makes sense to me. When I mint, this is more for artists. I'm surprised no one has done this. When you mint, it should be signed by the ENS that was primary being minted. So it's not quite soulbound, but I feel like there's going to be more data associated with various other things that you create on the chain. So there's a permanent history of which ENS like minted it versus which ENS wallet. So it's almost like an artist signing, but also like a person minting it gets a little bit of cred that even if they sell it, they'll always be on it. Even though the subsequent people are the ones that'll have possession of it. I think I haven't heard anyone do that, but obviously I don't know the entire space. I think that's pretty cool.
So like whoever created the artwork, the original artwork, he signs it with his ENS, and that's how it's authenticated, you know.
Yeah, and it's permanently in like the metadata, and the metadata is like IPFS, so it's like it's there forever, and then the platforms always will know that this was the person. Slobodnik is the one who, like, because if you look at like the Bored Apes, right, like obviously they all transacted, but someone minted the first ones, right, and knowing who that was, I think over time people are going to want to know and know not just like this address. I think they'd want to like, because the thing is that people, if they're practicing good hygiene, not everybody does that. They kind of clean out some of their wallets and kind of move it away or things like that. So it's sort of like the thing that's going to be more consistent over time is not a wallet address, your ENS, because I'm going to bring my ENS to my different wallets as I kind of change or security considerations grow. So I think having that imprint and that signature that's driven by ENS, like directly baked into the chain, is going to be like you'll see new things come out of that. And mine is like a very simple primitive.
So you have, in addition to like the current ownership, you have like the proof of origin, like whoever minted it originally.
Yeah, but tied to the ENS versus I mean, because like you obviously know what wallet minted it, right? But
no, absolutely.
Yeah, but it's more like a signature, because then even if your wallet changes or you kind of do some hygiene, that's always there, and like easily accessible rather than like trying to back into it through a bunch of data.
Which brings it to kind of more expanded view on decentralized identity. Like, do you think system like ENS can be used even more widely? I don't know, certificates or like university degrees, whatever.
Yeah, I think this is where like I kind of so have you heard of a project called GitPoApp?
Yeah, absolutely.
So like I think there's some kind of conversion between like my ENS, like there's a lot of sites out there like ETH.xyz, I think will give you a profile through your, like if you go ETH.xyz and then you go to like Slobodnik, it'll like create a profile image of yourself, right? Which is like a mini resume of all the things I've done. I think over time there's going to be some conversion between like POAP and ENS as a data store to let you have like a digital resume, and we'll effectively have like these issuing oracles, if you will, that will let you have like a more public facing like resume. I don't know exactly how it's gonna, oh, no one does, but like I don't know if it's like the ENS is gonna point to various like here's my like here's my like college information, and here's my like work information, and it's just more like pointers. ENS functions as the pointer to it, but then the POAPs are going to be the things that like represent your certificates. That's kind of how my mind is, where ENS becomes the center directory of things related to you, but then there'll be specialized services that kind of accredit you versus just like lumping it all in.
Gotcha. Okay, if anyone has questions, like I will continue talking, but you please raise your hands and join the conversation at any time.
I have a couple of quick questions coming from the Beam community chat, and this is from BeamBots. The first question is for Alex Slobo. Why did you choose to highlight the first transactions and the balances on Nftychat?
Great question. Thank you for that. So when I talk to someone, when I used to like research people who have like their wallets public, I want to know how long they've been in the space. So like if I'm, and this is also partially a fraud thing. So before I was in Web3, I used to do online fraud detection for lending companies. And one thing that's really important is like the age of your history. It's like you can't go back in time and do something. So if I've had a transaction in 2021, there's a limit of how many of those people have had that transaction. I think it tells me a lot when I look at people that I talk to in the chat who have a transaction, their first transaction being 2018. I know they're OG. right? And I know that without even having to look at their wallet, I just know that they've been around since 2018, and I think that has value. So that's one. Two, the reason I highlight the ETH value is because I just want to know, like, am I talking to an empty wallet? Is it a burner wallet? And like the moment someone has even a little bit of ETH, it kind of lets me know that, like, okay, this person is transacting. They logged in with like a non-burner wallet, and depending on whether it's 1 ETH or like, I don't really care. Like, I've seen people log in with like 100 ETH. There's actually like people who've logged in with over 1,000 ETH on the platform, which is like blew my mind. I never thought that would happen, but it's like, it's a very interesting like potential conversation piece, and it lets me know like who this person is, because this is what they're willing to, like, you know, connect to a website with. So that's why I chose those two things, and they were easy. Maybe that's the real answer.
These people are probably in this whale chat for which I'm not eligible.
Yeah, the whale chat is it's the smallest whale you could be. It's 1 ETH, you know.
Okay.
This makes sense actually. Like and I do this. I don't do it yet on Nftychat, but I will check it out and start doing it. But whenever I'm using like Twitter and I see something from someone I don't know, one of the first things I like look at to check is like, when did they join Twitter, and that, for better or worse, it's like an easy way to kind of start forming an opinion about them. I also have one more question from Beanbot. Let me find it. Oh, if you had the option to have the same product, chat, but with built-in privacy, would you choose to do so?
If I could do it. So the way, I hate being like a politician, which and like, politicians like like they always reframe the question and then they answer what they want to answer. But I'm trying to get what the core of that is. I think what I can say is like, I value privacy, and the way I think of, like, I actually don't think that my product is privacy destroying, and that might be like a little hypocritical. My goal is to make switching between wallets in the product to be as easy as possible. So that way you can manage multiple different identities, and I trust people to be able to log in. Like, to me, I have privacy by default because you already control your transactions, and like, I'm not going to link your wallets unless you tell me to link them. And I think that's where you can kind of keep things separate. If you're keeping your assets separate, there's no cost, right? Like, you don't have to create another email address. You already have the address. So it's sort of like, it has some of that privacy aspect built in, because then to Ethereum and having all these different wallets, because like, I have multiple wallets. I switch off between them and I have different personalities for some of those wallets, because like, I kind of, maybe bucket my DeFi stuff and other things like that. So I think the answer is like, I'm already kind of doing it, but I would hesitate to make privacy first, because in the end, I'm focused on community chat, and community chat is about bringing people together. And I think you need a little bit of like vulnerability and sharing of information to create good chats. So that's my answer to that question.
I have another question, which is kind of like not directly related, but in terms of decentralization, I just couldn't find, or maybe I was not looking hard enough, either white paper or like architecture. I'm a technical person, I'm sorry. Is this code open? Like, how does it work in terms of like what is decentralized and what is not?
Yeah, so like I have a very like skimpy FAQ, partially, and I'm sure you can appreciate this. It's a team of 4. I'm the sole like business product guy. So like, anything that is written is going to be written by me. Currently, the website is not open source. I'm probably going to open source it at some point. And in terms of like architecture, like, it's a React front end, Python back end, and all the data. Like, the only part that is decentralized today is your name. That's it. Everything else is like Postgres. Obviously we encrypt it, but like it's all centralized. But what I want to do is, for the communities that really care for their chats to be, decentralized, I want to build in functionality to have them store it wherever they want, in whatever encryption they want. But I think I need to get to scale and get enough like resources to hire the devs. Basically, no one cares when you're pre-scale. So, but it is my plan to like service the needs of the customers.
I sure hope that when you get there, and I completely understand, like, it takes time and it's a lot of work that you're doing, that you will also create an API, and I would love to integrate to that because, everything you're doing is absolutely amazing.
Actually, I do want to actually bring this up. So if you log in with ENS, you'll have access to effectively the ENS community. And I think the one thing that's really different about Nftychat versus Discord is that instead of having bots, I have first class UI elements. So like, I'm a very heavy participant in DAOs. I want to have a snapshot integration, but I don't want it to be a bot where I have to type a / command. I just want to see what the recent proposals are. I have like Dune integration for ENS, so I can see the most recent names that were registered. And I think that's the kind of paradigm, and more importantly, that side of like what I call like the integrations. That's the key thing that I actually want to open up to other developers and let them build on it. So I become almost like a little Apple store, but with a much lower take rate than they do. That's kind of how I'm thinking it, because bots is just not a great way to interact for the next 100 million people that are coming into the space.
Wow, I think that's amazing. Like, probably worth a separate discussion, but I think this is a great idea. In general, I think a lot of current products in the Web3 space suffer from, let's say, insufficient, product attention. And I'm very glad that you're focused on this aspect, because it's crucial. It's crucial for the success, and it's crucial for the people to be able to use it. And let me tell you, like, from my personal experience, it was amazing. It was amazing user experience. I tried a different kind of decentralized social network recently. I will not name names, but it was horrible. And like yours was really welcoming, really simple to use, and like immediately fulfilling, and very nice.
Yeah, and if you or anyone in your audience, like I'm probably releasing a little bit of self-serve features probably in the next week or two, where anyone's going to be able to create a room and like whitelist it for a POAP or NFT. But if there's like an active community that wants to use it, because one drawback, and I'm always going to be straight with people, is that like I don't have a mobile app, so notifications is a tough thing, right? So it's kind of hard to compete with Discord. But if someone's really passionate and they want to like use it, I'm happy to create a community, or like much lead is just to create a room that is like gated based on your wallet addresses or ENS or a contract integration, things like that. So like definitely hit me up if you want like to use it, because I'm obviously it's important that people use the product, so I can keep building it for those people who are.
Absolutely. I have no further questions. Like, if anyone has them, go ahead. And if not, like, amazing.
I believe we have a question from Crypto Buzz.
No, I'm just here to say hi and show my support. I've been a long time supporter, fan of the project. Nice to see everybody, all the familiar faces in here, from Scarlett, the CTO, and Ross School, and everybody. As some of you know, we host a Telegram chat where we give away free Beam all the time. So if you want to check that out, we pinned up a post at the very top with our Telegram where we drop Beam all the time. I look forward to giving away more of it in the future, and I think it's really quite wonderful. And the project hasn't really gotten, I feel like, the attention that it deserves. And I guess maybe the only question I have is, do you guys feel like Litecoin, enabling Mimblewimble, took away some of like the thunder from Beam, or are you guys concerned about it at all, or do you not view them as competitors?
Thank you for the question. Okay, so before I answer, I would like, first of all, to say thank you very much for the great description, introduction, and great talk about this amazing project. And we will tweet the link to the site and to the application so everybody can join and participate. And yeah, we probably will create a room if it's possible. So it will be amazing. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure, and I love these discussions, and there's nothing better than talking on a Sunday about crypto, because only the diehards are here, and I appreciate you and your audience for listening to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to be here. Thank you very much. So let's like kind of switch to the question about the Mimblewimble extension blocks. So first of all, I think it's a great achievement, both kind of personal for David Burkett, who we know very well from Green Days, and he's an absolutely amazing developer. We had quite a few chats with him, and we interviewed him on our YouTube channel, and he's absolutely awesome. And he did amazing job on this specific feature, which took quite a lot of time to develop. So it's a very interesting question. It's a very interesting question for several reasons. First of all, Line is kind of, in some ways, the closest thing to Bitcoin. So it has kind of long history, one of the, probably the first fork of Bitcoin. I'm not really good with this history. It was before my time. Okay, I joined in 2018. I'm a new guy on the block, so don't blame me if I mix some things up. It is an improvement of like, it definitely brings privacy to like this kind of Bitcoin-like chain. Having said that, like in terms of privacy, I always prefer confidential by default layer one implementations like Monero, like Beam, and whoever else is doing this. I think it's better for privacy, even though Mimblewimble extension block is a definite improvement. It is to be very interesting, and we see it already. Just I think this week, maybe last week, probably this week, there was some kind of response exchanges in Korea, I think, who warned that they might be delisting or like thinking about that, or like, because some of the transactions are not visible, and in some countries, regulatory framework does not allow these things. So it's going to be very interesting to see, because unlike Beam, which is, rather small product in a small community and listed on few exchanges, Litecoin is obviously very well adopted and like exists for much longer than any of us. So it will be interesting to see how this impacts both the current exchanges ecosystem in general, and it's also going to be very interesting to see the usage. And they have created just recently a blockchain explorer that shows the Mimblewimble extension blocks. So I think it's going to be very interesting to monitor what is going to happen with that feature, how used, what will happen with the exchanges, and so on. It's obviously great that Mimblewimble was chosen. It's an amazing technology. It's used in the basis of Beam from the very beginning. So yeah, we're all excited. I don't think it steals the thunder from Beam, because like we are kind of shifting a different domain. We have smart contracts now. We're building DeFi apps. We're building confidential usability apps like the naming service and other interesting things on top of it. Not sure like it's a competitor of the direct competitor of sorts, but yeah, we'll see. A lot of interesting things are going to happen.
All right, thank you very much. And I look forward to more developments from the project. You have our full support over at Crypto Buzz. I was such a passionate advocate that I got like friends and family to buy into the project, and so I hope it really turns out to be really worthwhile.
Yes, we too. And yeah, in the coming months, I think we're going to announce quite a lot of interesting developments. Now that we have been kind of completing the infrastructure that we wanted, that we always wanted, we have added IPFS support, as you know, in the 7.0. And it means that now we can kind of host additional types of applications that also require storage of data, both in the NFT world and in other domains. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting several months coming ahead. Definitely. What's up, Gus? You still there?
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to mention, I don't like, I also, I think it's a good question about like Litecoin integrating Mimblewimble with extension blocks and whether it's like negative or bad thing for Beam. To be honest, I would think like if anything, it's a huge positive and like a positive in that it like reestablishes like why Mimblewimble was chosen by Beam, and also like gets the word out on Mimblewimble. I think like being exposed via this to a huge community like Litecoin community is probably far more positive than like any negative that would come from it. That's my feeling anyway.
Can I say something?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, so I agree with Gus there. It definitely it kind of I've noticed a lot of people heard what Mimblewimble is. Now all you see is MWeb all over Twitter. It is given that exposure to the technology. What is this protocol? Harry Potter. I never heard of it before, but at the same time, it gave Litecoin utility, and the community is big as Litecoin and as old as Litecoin. I think it is kind of given Beam a more of a direct competitor, because before it was grand, but right now, I mean, just judging by their development, it's a joke. It's not even competition. Not that I'm not trying to like sound hateful, but compared to the progress with Beam, I think it's Beam is obviously a clear winner. But yeah, I think we've gained exposure, but at the same time, we're a pretty strong competitor.
I think this is a fair point. Yeah, and I think like at least like how I view the world and this kind of stuff, I think that like strong competition is massively beneficial for people like involved in the competition. Like it would be, and Bitcoin has pretty much not really had any competition, and I think that this is why like at least maybe less so now, but at least like earlier on is why it's almost like ossified very fast, and now the innovation that's going like onto Bitcoin is far less than it would if it had a really strong competitor, both good and bad, of course. But I think like for Beam, it's a good thing to have a strong competitor, and I think that Beam is like going to push forward with all of the obviously like the Beam naming service, having like NFTs and also DeFi applications on top of it. And I think like what will be the like huge driver is these DeFi applications. And personally, super excited to start like seeing them roll out. And I think this will give us like a leg up on especially Litecoin and this
For sure. Yeah, because Beam is privacy first, and Litecoin is not. It's an opt-in privacy, which is I'm hoping that Alex actually would start developing on Beam as well. I did want to ask or clarify that there are no plans of like building something similar on Beam, or
Yeah, so let me comment on that. There are three kind of different interesting things here to consider. First of all, we don't want, and we said that like for a long time, we can't and we don't want to build everything ourselves. And this is why I asked about the APIs, and we will continue that conversation because I am really interested in finding these interesting ways to collaborate with different projects. Because what we see today is the move to this interoperability between blockchains. And it's not like the Polkadot like 4 years ago way. It's more like layer 2, layer 3, like applications that use multiple blockchains, because each blockchain has its own kind of benefits, whether it's privacy, and create a combination. This is kind of moving to the second point of both decentralized and centralized services that bring you the essence of decentralization, which means that the truth, right, is decentralized, which is what you want, but you can use kind of centralized aggregators, caches, search services, like whatever makes it more usable. Because if you are doing everything on chain, it's obviously not an option. But you see today that many projects move to Polygon because of the Ethereum fees, right? So you already see that, yeah, Ethereum is great, but it's too expensive to be used massively in the current situation. Let's see what is going to happen when the switch to the ETH 2.0 is going to happen. But right now, Polygon to take advantage of these lower fees and make things on chain that they couldn't have Ethereum. However, you can also see like a lot of hybrid projects that are created that have some of the information on some of the operations on chain and some off chain without trying to without compromise the decentralization in general. And the third point is that all of these worlds, like today, the cross-chain DeFi is getting bigger by the day because, and this is just one example, because in order to be profitable in this world, which is very changing very quickly, right? So things like you can no longer say, oh, I'm only trading on Ethereum. I'm only trading on Solana. You have to be everywhere and you have to be able to move funds between chains. That's why we see a lot of bridges, and that's why we see that the bridges are essential. They need to be protected because they become this kind of major points of attacks because they're vulnerable. They hold a lot of funds in a single place. But still, people are using them because this necessity to move both funds and other kind of data between chains kind of takes over. You need that. You need this interconnected world. So these three things together is our focus, right? We want to find our place and integrate with both existing solutions and maybe create new kind of layers of interconnectivity so that the privacy that Beam provides can be used, to benefit both new and existing projects or on other chains, in a way that can benefit everyone.
So on the privacy by default chain, is it possible to, I guess, do the other way? With Litecoin is doing, how they are, open source. Open. I got a brain fart. I'm sorry, but you know what I mean. So they're open ledger blockchain, and they added a layer of privacy. Is it possible to do something like this on privacy by default chain where you're private by default? However, if you want to say, hey, I am not some trading bot burner wallet, I am a real human person, and somehow be able to leave that, or, to have that proof, is it possible to do that on on Beam?
So yeah, it is technically possible because using smart contracts, we can emulate quite a lot of things. We can basically emulate most of Ethereum behavior today. And we're also working on actually researching and adding EVM to Beam so that applications that today run on EVM chains can be also natively run on Beam. Having said that, we need to be careful because we do not want to give up this confidential by default feature. So we need to be careful while adding these features not to weaken our current privacy, because that's not the point, right? So yeah, you can, using that zero knowledge or any other type of proof, you can prove a lot of things. Like, for example, you can prove that you own XYZ without actually showing it. You can prove that you were part of the group without actually exposing like who you are. There are a lot of interesting things that you can do without sacrificing your privacy. And what we are trying to do is to bring as many use cases as possible to Beam using all of these tricks without actually sacrificing your basic layer of privacy that you expect from Beam and you are kind of relying upon.
All right, that answers my question. Thank you.
So let's take, for example, like ENS, right, or Beam naming service. So the point here is that, yeah, you have a name, and this name is associated with your wallet. But when you're receiving funds or NFTs or anything to this name, you are the only one who knows all of these funds that were received. Like, everyone knows what they sent to you, but they don't see any of it after they have sent it, right? They don't see other people sending to the same address, to the same name. They don't see what you have done with the things that you have sent. You sent me like an NFT and then I sold it. You don't know about it, right? You just lose touch with that NFT after you have sent it to me. And At the same time, I can still like prove that I own something. I can prove that I don't own something, like I sent it, like I can show a receipt from the transaction that I did. So all of these options are available, and I control kind of the information that I expose. So yeah, this is like a good example of what we're trying to do when we try to combine an amazing success of ENS, because like, people really, as you heard today, like it's really useful feature, and it's a gateway to an application like Nftychat and a lot more applications. It's a very important kind of development, while at the same time like preserving the privacy that you want. Okay, so if we don't have any other questions, we can, I think, wrap it up on time. Thank you very much for everyone for joining. Thank you, Slobodnik, for a great presentation, great explanation, an amazing project. And we will tweet the link immediately. Yeah, see you next week, same time, same place. Thanks a lot.
Thanks all.
See you guys.
Bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.